club of unity. The Unity Club is designed to promote conversations and understanding between different people. We're pleased to be hosted by TASS. And I'm especially pleased to be in the presence of General Gurulyov, who is an experienced military professional, has served his country, has seen Russia go through some tough times, and is in a great position we'll talk about where we are right now and where he thinks we're headed. Thank you, General.
Thank you very much for the invitation.
So I'm always fascinated, and you played fascinated by the Chechen War, the Second Chechen Civil War in particular. One, because I believe my country was directly involved in helping bring some of those fighters to Russia in order to try to destroy it. Two, for the fact that against very difficult odds, Russia prevailed. But three, and most importantly, in my view, is the healing and reconciliation that took place afterwards. Instead of great animus between Christians and Muslims, that was healed. And there is a unity there now that we see with the presence of Muslim fighters in the Russian army like Kadyrov and General Apty. How did that happen, in your view?
Let me say it, in the Second Chechen War, we won just because to our president, Mr. Putin, his will was there. He just became the president of Russian Federation. Just his will allowed us to win first two. We were fighting not against separatists. We were fighting with international terrorism that was concentrated in a Chechen Republic that was supported by all the countries of the West to weaken, to take dignity away from Russia. And number three, we found consensus, agreement, and we were able to find the leaders that would take the same Chechen Republic, would lead it and put it together, back on the feet together with the Russian Federation. That's inseparable. If you went through the time of Gorbachev and Yeltsin, of course, the resurrection came with Mr. Putin, with the President Putin. And our commander-in-chief, not only we have Muslims and Christians, we have Judeans, we have Buddhists, and everything is just fine in this country. They live together just perfect. And I'm not speaking about great number of mixed marriages. That's also normal for us. It is okay. And when there's tragedy came to the country and West was coming to our borders, and we had nothing to do but to fight the trouble and fight the sovereignty or whatever, ex-Ukrainian Soviet Republic, there's no difference what is the difference in nationality, age. Everybody works together in agreement. In one team, and let's say the truth, we are successful, quite successful, counting in that practically all NATO countries and their allies are working against Russian Federation, but we're still winning.
Do you ever get a chance to hear some of these U.S. generals, like General Ben Hodges or General David Petraeus or Jack Keane, where they are always ridiculing Russia, saying, oh, they've made slow progress, they're not fighting well, and yet these are the same generals that failed to defeat the Taliban, who were not backed by NATO or by Russia, who did not have tanks, did not have artillery, did not have fixed-wing aircraft, did not have rotary-wing aircraft, didn't have hypersonic missiles, didn't have medium to long-range missiles, and yet, in spite of all, we couldn't defeat the Taliban, and yet here is Russia fighting a NATO force. You're fighting a de facto NATO force that's armed, equipped, and provided intelligence by NATO. Does that ever get under your skin?
You know, Russians say you have to separate the flies from the meat. It's an informational fight question, and when your generals, you know, those that already are on pension, what they're gonna tell us, how they're gonna hit us, and how they're gonna hurt my motherland. We take it seriously. A lot of things we take it seriously. You think if you don't know NATO plans about Russian Federation, we know it very well. We know. And United States of America, they were geopolitical enemy. Can we maybe have an agreement? Can we live in some kind of state of equal scales? But for today, we clearly understand that the strongest army in the world, that's Russian army.
Yeah.
It has military experience, it has modern military complex, and they are able to perform. Have we problems? Yes, we have problems. We speak open about it. Yes, we have to develop a Sputnik system, what you have a Starlink, and we will do it for sure in any ways. And not will be also the management for the special services and military departments. We'll come to it. We're still going forward. And when we have war, for us it's a war. Of course, the methods and the instruments, they're developing faster in the wartime. And Americans are always watching this, but they have conclusions. But the fastest who make a conclusion today, who are truly fighting today, and we are successful in it again. So here is the point. Divide the points. And our president, commander in chief, he says the safety questions cannot be done at the cost of the others. We spoke about it. NATO was going east. Your leaders were promising to Gorbachev and to Yeltsin that NATO will never go to the east, but nevertheless it's going. It keeps going. Okay, good. We don't have that USSR. We don't have communist ideology. What NATO was against, it doesn't exist anymore. Now the question is, was it hypocrisy? Did they want to destroy Russia? And for you to understand that when Russian Union fell apart, you know, Gorbachev and Yeltsin put it apart. Soviet Union is then Russia, that was called then USSR. Russia was then. Here's Russia, here's big Russia. The point is not that imperial ambitions, no. That's our spiritual past, spiritual future. That's our united economy area. We don't get into Mexico, right? We don't take terrorists there with drones for them to bomb the U.S. Probably it would be unnatural to you. Why they come here? So today Russia is going on the way of taking full sovereignty. And I assure you, there's political will, there's army, there's agreement of people and nations. In any case, we're going to come to our victory. Nobody's going to stop us. Another point is that today we can come with big blood or with small blood, and that's a big difference. We want to come with a small blood. So if you don't understand, we have to fight until the end. Is that clear? Is that you understand?
I spent, let's see, from roughly 1994 through 2017, I was helping script terrorism exercises for the U.S. military special operations forces, JSOC, SOCOM, SEAL Team 6, Delta Force. And I was involved with probably over 253 exercises over that period of time. And so I came out of that experience, I came to understand really the importance of military exercises in developing future capabilities. So I then asked myself the question, how many exercises was NATO and US EUCOM, United States European Command in Stuttgart, how many were they doing with Ukraine? And so I started doing the research, and frankly, I was shocked that it started in 1995. And initially it was like only 2 or 3 per year, but it progressed under Donald Trump. It was over 5 or 6 per year. And I guess the question I have was there ever a point within the Russian military where you guys went, you know what, this isn't just exercise, they're preparing to attack us?
I personally did. I was a student. I was head of the division. I went to the academy. That's our top university where they prepare generals. And I made a report using the topic the nearest conflict would be with Ukraine. But you know, we all come out from the same country. Ukrainians are the same Russians that they made non-Russians from them. And this, it was hard to understand on a morality level. We said we don't believe it, but there were certain facts, pumping with the weapons, prepare the generals, yes, studies, practices, having the same management NATO system. We understand where Ukraine was moving. Unfortunately, we made mistakes then too, we have to be honest. We were making mistakes, and when in 2014, what happened. I went to my alma mater. I was the biggest army in Europe and Caucasus, number 58. And they looked at me and I said, I told you, I warned you, you have to be ready. Here it is going, unfolding before your eyes. They saw that way Ukraine was led this way. It's, you know, that's just military. It's not just military fail. Also, Ministry of Foreign Affairs that were supposed to work in that key, our politicians, everybody made a mistake that somewhere we did not do right. What we have today in Ukraine is, it's a nightmare. Could have we stopped it earlier? Yes, I think so. Probably so. But today we have what we have. Well, you have to understand your mistakes and you have to fix them, but you fix them by understanding them. You have to analyze those conclusions.
Yeah, it does seem that in observing the Russian army, that it does a much better job than most other armies in admitting, hey, we made a mistake, we did this wrong and we need to correct it. They don't spend a lot of time trying to sweep it under the rug, whereas, you know, the United States hasn't won a war since World War II. And even in World War II, we didn't win the war. We helped the Soviets win the war, but it was, we were in really a secondary position compared to what the Russian people experienced. So what is it that makes Russian army different in that regard? Its ability to reflect, identify problems, and correct them.
You know, Russian army, it's a morality, spirit. The Russian will always go to the end, no matter the death, no matter the consequences. That's number one. Number two, I would not say that World War II, it was big. And America played a very big role in it, and it was great. Was happened by the air. We gave airplanes for your airports, for your airplanes. It was, we had a lot of support. Of course, we paid back.
Yeah.
You know, we paid back for a long time for what was provided, but we did pay it back. But in the military plan, all the heaviness was left on the shoulders of Russian army. Major battles, major reconciliation, and the spine for Hitler was broken by Russians. That's the truth concerning today's realities that we have at the front line. You understand? It's if the commander is not analyzing the situation, not making conclusions, he shouldn't be in that position. And a war, it's like it filters those that are not able, and it keeps those that are able. And you have to be grammatically right, having a fight, being in a battle. It's not a personal, it's every day, 24 hours, you got to update. You got to be better. That's where success lays. So I think it all works out today.
Is there any other army that you're familiar with, national army, that has something equivalent to the Stavka?
On the other side, the same Russians are fighting there. They have the same spear, the same backbone, the same character. To be honest, same Russians are fighting on the other side. Nobody else is close to that. No, nobody. Yes, NATO power. Yes, they have 3 times more in aviation and other things. But the way Russians fight, nobody can fight. You cannot take. It's practically impossible to take over Russia through air. Nobody will let you do that.
Right.
And without that being super in air, NATO cannot do anything, because they understand exactly they will be just destroyed. Make conclusions. We see today, and when we hear they will knock out Kaliningrad or Sevastopol, just don't say so. That's too hard of a saying. There's quite a few moments, but Russia, it's not some kind of wild, it's a nuclear hold superpower. And when the question would be to use it or not to use it, and there's a direct threat to the sovereignty, yes, we will use it, and nobody's going to think about it. They will use it.
Well, it appears that the whole planning process that the general staff for the Russian army uses is superior to. You don't see that kind of staff work and planning, particularly in the U.S. The U.S. doesn't have. They have what they'll call a joint, but it's not really. It's not unified the way Russia's unified, and that seems to me to give the Russian military an advantage over all of NATO, because they don't have anything comparable on their side. Am I mistaken, or is that a fair assessment, do you think?
NATO they have equipment, they have weapons, but, for example, in the United States and in Europe, these armies, they are fake armies. Today, they're not ready to fight with us. What Western Pistorius and Starmer, what they say, Western politics, and by 29-30, they want to fight Russia. They have a couple of moments, very serious moments. First of all, they have to make those armies. It's all on paper, but you have to create it in the real world, and that's not easy. I'll explain to you why. Also, you have to make a certain amount of, produce a certain amount of weapons. Half of what they have, they won't be able to make. And then the technology is lost. Production is not spread out. Yes, they'll try to buy it in the United States and probably will make money on it. But if American also can start it in a split of a second, they also have their own interest. Number 3. You have to prepare the nations to fight, people to fight. You have to teach them to hate Russians. Let me tell you bluntly, our president said the following phrase: I don't want for us to go as we were until 2022. It's very clear. The whole globalism, liberalism, is so destroyed. It didn't justify itself, but in that time, all out of us, they were making they just make us to eat good, sleep good, have good entertainment was more important than anything else. No interest of the state, nothing. We had that. We had the state. In the West, they betrayed their faith. Churches are empty. Chapels are empty. They betrayed their faith. And what the pioneers of the United States given to their children and grandchildren. And they couldn't do that in Russia. Consuming society. Some are fighting, and the rest of the country is helping. Even the pension grandmother, she's helping from her pension money. They sew something, they stitch something just to help something on the front line. Can the Western world do that?
No. Yep.
No. So this is the main point, the key issue. Even if they try to fight Russia, of course it is important for them that until 2030, 31, Russia would dive in Ukraine. No, we don't need that. And we have to do the targets and objectives that we have, that Ukraine wouldn't be ever anti-Russian. Nothing else we need. And when the Western people start to fighting with us, have you heard from at least one of our politicians to fight with the West? Nobody, neither president, nobody, that they try to go fight somebody. It's true, they never mentioned that. So in this paradigm, we'll come to the point that Ukraine will not be anti-Russian. And the goals that our president said, what they say in Budapest, they will agree on the mechanics.
I don't think so. Yeah, I mean, when they talk about Putin and Trump meeting, Putin's demands from July 14th of 2024, which is the world, the United States and the rest of the world have to recognize Donetsk, Luhansk, Kherson, Zaporizhia, and Crimea as part of the Federal Republic of Russia. That is constitutionally part of Russia. Putin doesn't have the ability to give that back. Secondly, all of Ukrainian troops need to be pulled out of Russian territory. Third, NATO needs to get out of Ukraine and cut all ties with Ukraine. I don't see President Putin backing off on any of those. I don't even think he's able to make concessions on those.
The point is that our president would never went back. He never went back. It just didn't happen ever. The question is not in the areas where they're under Constitution, the part of the Russian Federation. The question is about identification and demilitarization. What is denazification? All those Nazis. You have to what? You have to catch them all, put them under court, and that nobody would desire to get back to it, just like it was in Hitler's Germany. Demilitarization. The army of Ukraine for today, nobody needs it. It has to totally give out the weapons. They have to leave Ukraine. And there's a key question. And then there was another offer from our president that they needed transition period for under UN jurisdiction. Unprecedented, that it would bring back Ukraine to its foot. Over half of the population of Ukraine left, and it will not get back. So today Ukraine does not produce anything. Everything comes from overseas, maybe some segments and questions. And today we do the strikes that just stop even that production. You have to restore Ukraine. When you stabilize the situation and they clean up with Nazis, then you're going to have direct, transparable, regular election that everybody would give a vote for the candidate that would lead Ukraine into the future.
Right.
But it has to not to be NATO and definitely not anti-Russia.
Yeah. One of the things I've been impressed by is, let's call it the flexibility and the quickness that Russia, how a military commander can identify a deficit in the field, such as with the drones, recognizing that the electronic warfare from the Ukrainian side was interfering with the drones. So therefore, they communicated back up and said, hey, fiber optic, can we get a fiber optic drone? And it was produced very quickly and deployed to the field. I could not imagine that happening if it was the U.S. side, because there's a big bureaucracy to go through, and there'd be then contracts to be let, and then members of Congress would have to be paid off. And what is it that makes the Russian system so much quicker?
We also had a lot of problems with bureaucracy, placing tenders, placing orders, but we made great, State Duma made good orders, good laws with it. Now we have everything what is necessary, more or less. Of course you want more all the time.
Yeah.
You know, you want a lot more bullets, but you know, please don't tell me that not enough bullets on the battlefield, ever. And they fly now themselves, they hit the targets, but the question is that It's not just the drones that are being modernized, the rocket equipment, the artillery. The war gives great impulse to the development of all those weapons. That happens in the two directions, is creating a new weapon, completely new, and modernizing what we have, what is cheaper, that comes out cheaper. The main thing is the price and quality, and what gives the best result. So this is what happens.
Yeah. Were you surprised by the lack of strategic depth in NATO? In other words, when the war started, there was, I think, this impression that NATO had unlimited supplies and inventories of different weapon systems, that they would be able to reproduce what was lost in a fairly timely manner. And then, as we saw with the M777 howitzer and the 155 millimeter shells, the West didn't have the ability to produce the artillery barrels, much less produce enough of the 155 millimeter, 152 millimeter artillery shells to sustain the rate of fire that was underway on the front lines. Were you surprised by that?
Well, 152, 155, it's the same. Yes, we count differently in millimeters. The thing is that we thought that the volume of strategic reserves, they had a lot more. Because, of course, we use our reserves too, also, but who reacted quicker and faster to the changes of the circumstances? We have the weapon that NATO supplied, Excalibur. They don't use it, it's not effective, there's no point, but it costs a lot of money. NATO refused from it at the usage of these rockets and bullets. And today, what we have, the reserves are now short. How do you fill them up? But the war is still going on. And the war is going on. You have to fill up the reserves. So let's see how it goes on. We also have not everywhere we work it out right away. You know, we say that we're good. Yeah, we also have delays, we have problems, we have issues. But in a total volume of a whole production, yes, this reaction that we have and a production that we have, it's a great achievement of our industry. And honestly speaking, I was assured more in the army than in industry. Way upside down. Industry was quickly provided the army, and first delays that we had in 22, that was at the army. I made a mistake there on my counting.
Yeah, well, and also what's been impressive is Russia's ability to produce hypersonic missiles. So, they travel at Mach 6 or greater, and they're maneuverable. The West doesn't have a single one. In fact, I know one of the project managers in the West for this, and he was telling us 2 years ago, oh, it'll be ready in 2 months. That was 2 years ago. It's still not ready. So Russia's advances in terms of certain military technology is far superior to that of the West. And the West still, they don't realize it, they don't acknowledge it, or they don't accept it.
Let me answer step by step. First, Russia has the owner of the hypersonic rockets, hypersound. And that weapon, it's not just operative, it's strategic. Because it's fully zeroes down your Navy ships, your Navy.
Yeah, just
Everybody sees it clear. You cannot work against that. Navy, big, fat target. It's the military that all your expedition military things, just for some kind of activities all over the world. They just, the territory of Russia, they definitely cannot come close to it. So we will do it, we will develop it. And It's all today together for the you have the drones from the sea drones. Ukraine has nothing to fight with.
Right.
But I want to assure you that if something would start, it would be a shock for Americans, because their greatest achievement is the Navy. And the Navy would be powerless against those rockets. Concerning why the West does not realize, you need to understand that you're older than me. I'm not young either. Before we had generals and leaders, you could have sympathy to them or anti-sympathy, but they were state workers. Think of Mr. Colin, Mitterrand in Europe. And today, who do we have? Margaret Thatcher, the Iron Lady. Look at her character, including the Britain, but we respected her because she is a strong person. And who do we have today? This British island, next premier is changing, so we don't know who is there. And they're behaving strange.
Yeah.
The elite is getting very small. There's no bright, charismatic state personnel in Western Europe. In Fico and Orban, they have bright politicians. They're smart. But the rest is like a small fish. Somewhere, somehow, they're barking at each other, but there's no point.
Yeah.
Maybe it's rough, but it's true.
No, we've never had such a group of weak leaders in Europe, and frankly in the United States, because Donald Trump likes to project strength, but he's on both sides of the issue, saying both things with the opposite sides of the issue in the same week, and it's got to be confused. Russia's you've got to be sitting there wondering, okay, which Donald Trump is it today? Who are we listening to?
The point is for make America great again. He speaks that America is not great.
Duh.
Is that correct?
Yeah. Duh.
Yes. And it's today it's clear we have a period of turbulence and instability. Our president said the following thing: friends, we have to have 20 more years ahead of us heavier than what we lived through. That's what he determined. For me as a military man, I understand there will be a lot of military conflicts. It's clear. And in this turbulence and instability, there's one polar world, there won't be any. Trump again wants to be the great policeman of the whole world.
Yeah.
It won't work. You just have to look at the reality, and we have a different mentality. We signed a contract. We had a contract, and they answer for the signatures in a deal. He has. What, go around your partner, take more money?
Yeah.
We have different mentality. Different, completely different. Big difference there, you see. We can believe the word because we are answering for what we say. We'll see what it will take place. And today, Russia positioned itself. It was a great country, big with a lot of people, developed country. But we don't want to be somebody be lower than us or abate to us. No, we want a peaceful life with our neighbors. Our commander-in-chief, our president, speaks about that. He says, we don't want to touch anybody. Why you try to get inside? You're trying to get inside. Americans, Brits, they're coming through the CIS countries. They're trying to provoke the situation there. We have one economical zone. That's how we live. But they're trying to break it. Why? To make Russia weak.
Right.
We are not dumb. We understand that. And we offer completely Let's keep peace. But no, they don't want to. And what they want to do something and be rich. No, the world has changed. And you have to understand these conflicts would be growing further. But as soon as China will go hit the Taiwan, then Russia will have to hit Europe. No, yes, we have in Russian word idiots. Same, it's just idiots saying those things. Pure idiots. Either they're drug addicts or they're just inadequate. What's the point of going somewhere to Holland? Why do we need Holland for? To Germany and France? They are destroying themselves. They forgot about the cultural codes. They have a bunch of migrants. They killed everything with their tolerance. The whole population is just getting rotten. We don't want that. Keep being rotten. Let us live at peace. We don't really need anything else. That's what we talk about. And we still will have the place under the sun. That will be our victory. We will live just like we lived. If you treat us right, you treat us right.
What about, get your thoughts on tactics. As an armchair warrior, I'd sit there and look and said, why didn't Russia blow up all the bridges over the Dnieper to cut off the ability of Ukraine to resupply troops on the east side? Is it because it's impossible to do? Is it because there are other workarounds so that the supplies could continue to flow, or was there perhaps some other reason?
Okay, the basic reason is that no political will for that. Why not? Because we understand we have to live with that further on. When the West says that they will restore something in Ukraine, I beg your pardon. No, Russia will restore that. West doesn't care about Ukraine anything. Russia will. That's the truth. And if it pushes us, yes, we'll break those bridges. We do have the missiles and we do the rockets. We can do that. There is no problem to destroy those bridges. We can't hit it from the second hit, but from the second hit, we'll destroy it. Point 3. And the president made that special military operation. We're trying to push the opponent to the terms and conditions that we want. It would be like in Gaza if we would be fighting. We'd be just knock out the whole field. Here's the key thing. And number 4, our president says if there is no civil war, they are the same Russians. They're just fooled. They lied to them. That's our president says that he cares for people. Time will come. You have to put them back on feet. You put them together, and they have the same names. They have the same last names. Unfortunately, they made non-Russians, anti-Russians from Russians. But you can't bring them back. Is that clear?
Yes. So what is your anticipation with the course of the war now going forward over the next 6 months? It looks to me like the rate of offensive operations on the part of the Russian army have accelerated. They are whereas 2 years ago, forces were concentrated in maybe 1 or 2 locations like Avdiivka or Bakhmut. But now you're seeing it's an entire pressure across the front. Or am I misperceiving that?
Yes, you understood correct, but there's one small nuance here. The opponent, you have to hit step by step at one place, a second place, third, fourth, fifth, and so on. It'd be easier to concentrate the instruments and the powers around. It could be here and there, but you see, we go step by step. In a second moment, today, when we have from each side 20 kilometers of the front line because of the drones, we have to have big territories of like over 50 kilometers because you can close up all the backs and knock out all the management on all the control points, remote control points. But now we have to have like from 10 to 50 kilometers length. Then the business will go further fast, but we have to get ready. We have to sit down, we think about it, meditate upon it, and you have to find those instruments, but each instrument has to be covered. You have to count, because war is math.
Yeah.
Everything is calculated. Everything is under numbers. If numbers don't work, I think that for Ukraine, it would not be a joyful moment. I'm speaking, it won't work for the things that what they try to do on the other side. Because in any case for today, they cannot stand against Russian army, even with help.
I don't know if you're familiar with Andrei Martyanov. Andrei was a Russian military naval officer. He left Russia in 1991, moved to the United States, became an American citizen, worked with Boeing, but he's written 5 books. His first book was called Losing Military Supremacy, and it was about the decline of the U.S. military relative to what was taking place with Russia. And what you just said about the math, that's what he argues all the time. Because he says it's part of, how we were educated as military officers. You have to have the strong math, the strong STEM background, in order, because he says this isn't philosophy. This is firepower. This is concentration of force.
I don't read those books that left our country. I served in Germany at my time. I lived among Germans. I saw that they live better than us, but they live in a German way, and I'm Russian.
Yeah.
This is why all my ancestors are here. I'm here. My grandparents, my parents are officers. I'm a son of the officer. My son is an officer. My daughter is an officer. They're all in Russia. And ours, I do read. I have Zhukov, Rokossovsky's books, and the scientists that we have today. Russia has a great scientific base, foundation. Military science here has a great respect.
If people have learned nothing from history, it should be don't pick a fight with the Russians. Better to steer clear.
They have to learn every time. That's how the humans are done. If you stop learning, you can't move further. You have to learn every time.
So let me close. I'm always fascinated by history, and with respect to your family. What did your grandparents or great-grandparents do during the Great Patriotic War? Because I found that everybody has a story. There was no Russian family left untouched.
All my grandfathers, they survived. All were wounded. One was in the 16th Army. He worked in the... And a second grandfather, starting from 1942 to the end of 1944, he was the head of the infantry. 4 times wounded. He was had in a hospital. He met the victory. He was treated, and then he went the colonel. Almost, he didn't have much of education, but still, they were all officers. My father graduated from Omsk Tank College, engineer. But he was born in 1941. He was a kid, and I came from there, from 6,000 kilometers to the east. That's my motherland. This morning I just landed there, came back from the motherland. He went to the military university. He became a general lieutenant. I graduated from the Moscow College. I lived with him. I saw how my father served. I had no other option but that I would not be military, because I grew up like that. And my kids are the same way. My daughter's in the connections. Today's the day of her connected. We have to say the happy connection. They were in the military for the connections.
I'll say this. If you were a bad officer, your kids would not have followed in your footsteps. They saw something in you that they said, you know what, they want to be like you. And so that speaks highly of you and your character. So I thank you, General, for taking this time to share I'm sure all who have watched this on behalf of the International Unity Club will have received some enlightenment and have a better understanding of what's going on with the special military operation. And again, we're appreciative of TASS for providing the studio and making this possible. General, thank you.
Вам спасибо.
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 Thank you.